My husband of 12 years looked me dead in the eye and laid down a new law in our home. From now on, he said, you'll eat from your own groceries. He said it to punish me, to put me in my place, to remind me who in his mind really paid the bills. But here's the thing about drawing a line in the sand. You better be ready for someone to step over it. And on his birthday, surrounded by his family and friends, he invited me to do just that. He asked me to cook his favorite, elaborate 5-course meal. The meal I used to make to celebrate us. And I said yes. Because I had a recipe of my own to follow. One that ended with him getting exactly what he paid for. Let me paint the picture for you. Mark. My husband. A man who'd climbed the corporate ladder and decided the view from the top meant he could look down on everyone else, including me. He developed what I call spreadsheet syndrome. Every contribution to our life together had a column, a value, a ranking. His salary obviously was the bolded top-line figure. My part-time work as a freelance graphic designer? That was a footnote. A quirky little side project. And my real work? Running our household? The cooking, cleaning, scheduling, remembering his mother's birthday, managing the contractor who fixed the roof, the emotional labor of keeping our social world spinning? In his ledger that column was blank. 0. Invisible. The house we lived in was his, bought before the marriage. The cars were in his name. He'd refer to them casually as his assets. I felt it in 100 tiny paper cuts. The way he'd hover when I used the good coffee pods. The sigh if I turned the thermostat above 68 in winter. I'd become a tenant in my own life, paying rent in unpaid labor and diminishing self-worth. The breaking point wasn't a thunderclap. It was a drip. A leaky faucet of resentment. It was a Tuesday. I'd just landed a decent freelance project. A logo redesign for a local bakery. I was excited. It wasn't just the money, which was good. It was the creative spark, the feeling of my own brain firing on cylinders it hadn't used in months. I bought ingredients to make his favorite cocoa vin to celebrate. A little splurge. Some nice wine, fresh herbs. He came home, saw the bags on the counter, and his face didn't light up with anticipation. It hardened into an auditor's mask. "What's all this?" he asked, his voice flat. "I got the bakery project." I said, the words still buoyant. "I thought we'd celebrate." He picked up the receipt I'd left out. His eyes scanned the lines. The Bordeaux. The organic thyme. The pearl onions. I could see the mental math happening, the ledger updating. His lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line. "Celebrate with my money?" he said, the words ice cold. "You know, Sarah, this is the problem. You have no concept of fiscal responsibility. You live in this bubble, spending freely while I carry the entire financial burden of this household." The air left the room. The aroma of the herbs suddenly smelled cloying, sickly sweet. I used the money from my last project for this," I stammered, my face burning. "And I just got a new one. I contribute." He laughed. A short, derisive puff of air. "That play money? That's not contribution. That's a hobby that occasionally breaks even." He dropped the receipt like it was contaminated. "I think it's time for a new system. For clarity. From now on, you'll eat from your own groceries. You buy your own food with your own play money. I'll buy mine. We'll see how long your carefree attitude lasts when you're responsible for yourself." The words hung in the air, solid and cruel. Your own groceries. He wasn't just talking about food. He was drawing a border. He was evicting me from the shared space of our marriage and declaring me a sovereign state of one poor, irresponsible Sarah. I didn't cry. Not then. A numbness spread from my core, freezing the panic, the hurt. All I could manage was a quiet, "Okay." The most dangerous word in the English language. Not an agreement. A ceasefire. A quiet closing of a vault door, behind which everything I thought I felt for him was being reassessed item by item and found to be counterfeit. The next day, a second fridge appeared in the garage. A small, humming monument to our separation. Mark meticulously stocked his fridge with premium steaks, imported cheeses, craft beers. I filled a shelf in the main fridge with my basics. Lentils, vegetables, discount chicken, the generic brand everything. Dinner times became a silent, surreal theater. He'd sear a filet mignon. I'd bake a chicken breast. The smells would mingle in the air, garlic and rosemary from his pan, simple lemon and pepper from mine, creating a discordant perfume of disparity. He'd eat at the dining table. I'd often take my plate to the living room. The clink of his silverware on the good china was the only sound. I started saving like my life depended on it. Every freelance dollar was hoarded. I packed lunches, skipped coffee shops, found a grim empowerment in my frugality. The numbness began to thaw, replaced by a cold, focused clarity. I saw our marriage stripped bare. It wasn't a partnership. It was a patronage. And I was the charity case he'd grown tired of. Then 3 weeks into the great grocery schism came the invitation. He approached me not with warmth, but with the entitled confidence of a project manager delegating a task. My birthday is next Saturday, he stated. My parents, my sister, and a few friends from work are coming. You'll cook, of course. I stared at him. The audacity was so breathtaking it was almost artistic. You want me to cook? For your guests? With your groceries? I asked, my voice dangerously level. He waved a hand, a king dismissing a trivial concern. Don't be dramatic. It's one meal. You used to love cooking for people. Make that tasting menu you used to do. The one with the scallop crudo, the truffle risotto, the chocolate souffle. Used to love. He was right. I used to love cooking for us. It was an act of love, each dish a silent message. I know you, I care for you, I delight in your pleasure. He was asking me to perform the ghost of that love for an audience. A plan, cold and perfect, clicked into place in my mind. It was like hearing the final turn of a combination lock. I let a slow, thoughtful smile touch my lips. Not a happy smile. A strategist smile. Okay, I said again. The same word, but now infused with a completely different meaning. I'll make your birthday dinner. He mistook my calm for capitulation. He saw the smile and thought he'd won, that his little system had broken me back into compliance. He had no idea he'd just handed me the blueprint for his own downfall. The week of his birthday I was a model of domestic efficiency. I asked for his menu preferences, nodding seriously as he listed the most expensive, time-intensive dishes. I checked the pantry, lamenting that we were out of arborio rice, white truffle oil, Valrhona chocolate. I even presented him with a mock-up menu card, printed nicely. To make it feel special, I said. He ate it up. Literally handed me his credit card, his card with a smirk, and told me to get what you need. Oh, I did. But I also made another trip. A secret one. To the butcher, the fishmonger, the farmer's market. Using my carefully hoarded play money. I bought duplicates of every single premium ingredient. The same Japanese scallops. The same Parmigiano Reggiano. The same wild mushrooms. I stored them at a friend's house. My insurance policy. The night before the party I began prep in his kitchen, using his ingredients. I made the stocks, the infused oils, the delicate garnishes. He wandered in, saw the activity, smelled the beginnings of something magnificent, and gave a satisfied, proprietary nod. His money was creating his perfect party. Saturday arrived. The house was clean, the table was set with our wedding china. Mark was in his element, playing the magnanimous host, basking in the praise for the amazing spread he'd put together. His parents beamed. His friends clapped him on the back. I was invisible, the silent kitchen ghost. Finally it was time. The guests were seated, wine was poured, the air thick with anticipation. I brought out the first course. Scallop crudo with yuzu gel and micro cilantro. It looked like art on a plate. A collective ooh went around the table. Mark, grinning, raised his fork. Everyone dig in. Sarah can cook when she's motivated. I stood in the doorway to the dining room, wiping my hands slowly on a towel. I took a deep, quiet breath. This was the line. And I was stepping over. Wait, I said. My voice was clear, calm, and cut through the chatter. Everyone looked up, forks poised. I looked directly at Mark, my husband, the financial scorekeeper. Before you start, I said, I just need to clarify something for the billing. His smile froze. Billing? Yes. I took a step into the room. Mark instituted a wonderful new system for financial clarity in our home. Everything is separate. Very responsible. I gestured to the beautiful plates before them. So, I wanted to make sure everyone knows. This exquisite scallop crudo, prepared with Hokkaido scallops, fresh yuzu and organic microgreens, is from Mark's Groceries. Paid for with his card. A confused chuckle from a friend. Mark's father frowned. I continued, my tone sweetly explanatory. The next course, the truffle wild mushroom risotto, also from Mark's Provisions. The dry-aged ribeye with bone marrow butter, his. The artisan cheese plate, his. The chocolate soufflé with gold leaf, all his. Mark's face was cycling through confusion, embarrassment, and dawning horror. Sarah, what is this? Not now. I'm just ensuring financial clarity, darling, I interrupted, my smile never wavering. You see, I've prepared my own meal in accordance with our system. I turned and walked back to the kitchen. I returned a moment later with a simple bowl. I placed it on the empty setting next to Mark, my usual seat. In it was a modest portion of plain lentil soup. A single slice of discount grocery store bread sat beside it. The contrast was devastating. A five-star masterpiece versus a pauper's meal. The table was dead silent. Mark's mother's hand was over her mouth. His sister stared at him aghast. I sat down gracefully in my seat, picked up my spoon and took a deliberate, quiet sip of my soup. The sound was deafening in the silence. Happy birthday, Mark, I said, meeting his mortified, furious gaze. I hope your meal is worth every penny. For a full 10 seconds no one moved. You could have heard a pin drop onto the velvet of the risotto. Then the dam broke. Mark's face turned a spectacular shade of plum. A vein in his temple throbbed. You've ruined this, he hissed, his voice low and trembling with rage. His mother, Eleanor, a woman who prized propriety above all else, found her voice first. Mark, separate groceries? You make your wife buy her own food. The disgust in her voice was thicker than the truffle oil. His friend from work, Dave, shifted uncomfortably. Dude, you said she was freeloading. This is your wife, man. The verdict was delivered not by me but by his own tribe. Their stares, a cocktail of pity, judgment, and utter disbelief, were 1,000 times more powerful than any scream I could have unleashed. He wasn't just facing an angry wife. He was facing the irreversible collapse of his carefully constructed image as the benevolent provider. He was exposed, petty, and cruel. I ate my lentil soup. Tasted like victory. Tasted like freedom. Every bland, economical spoonful was a symphony. The warmth in my belly wasn't from the soup. It was the glow of atomic-level satisfaction. He tried to salvage the evening, stammering about context and responsibility, but the spell was broken. The food, now growing cold on their plates, tasted of awkwardness and shame. The party ended within the hour with strained goodbyes and promises to call that everyone knew were lies. As the last car pulled away, the silence in the house was absolute. Mark stood amidst the ruins of his birthday, the beautiful, uneaten food now a grotesque monument to his own folly. He turned to me, his anger deflated into a bewildered exhaustion. Why would you humiliate me like that? I put my bowl in the sink. The sound was final. You humiliated me first, I said, my voice quiet but solid as stone. You drew the line, Mark. I just showed everyone what it looked like. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to my friend's to pick up my own groceries. The good stuff I bought for myself. I'm in the mood for a soufflé. People ask me if it was petty. Maybe. But sometimes, petty is just another word for proportionate. Sometimes, the only language a person like Mark understands is the cold, hard grammar of his own rules. That dinner wasn't the end of our marriage, but it was the end of the lie. It was the moment the silent, accommodating wife evaporated, and a woman with self-respect and a mean lentil soup recipe stood in her place. The divorce papers were filed 3 months later. He fought me on the settlement, of course. But my lawyer, a brilliant woman who loved the grocery story, made sure I walked away with more than just my self-cooked meals. Justice doesn't always come from a courtroom. Sometimes it's served on a plate at a dinner party, in a moment of exquisite public clarity. If this story of quiet rebellion gave you that warm, satisfying feeling of karma doing its best work, do me a favor. Smash that like button. Let me know in the comments below. What's the most deliciously petty or perfectly proportionate revenge you've ever witnessed, or dreamed of? And of course, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We have so many more stories of underestimated people rising up, and we'd love for you to be here for every single satisfying one. Until next time, remember, never underestimate the person who knows how to follow your rules better than you do.